Welcome to The Movement, the podcast where we celebrate 165 years of impact and look ahead to 165 years of empowering our community with the YMCA of Greater Kansas City. Join us as we share remarkable stories from individuals whose lives have been transformed by the Y across the Kansas City metro. From members and volunteers to community leaders and associates, their journeys inspire us to keep moving forward and making a difference. Get ready to be inspired by The Movement. 165 years of impact, 165 years ahead. Let's go. So welcome to The Movement. I am your host, Mark Hewlett, and we are continuing to celebrate the 165th year of the YMCA serving Kansas City, being on the road, visiting our community centers, our sites, our programs to see the impact in action. Today, we're at the Kirk Family YMCA in the heart of beautiful downtown Kansas City, Missouri. The Kirk Y, which opened in 2021, marked the return of a full-service facility, YMCA, in downtown for the first time since the early 1980s. The city of Kansas City, plus a lot of charitable donors, helped bring this amazing building to life, where we serve all the time with healthy living programs, social responsibility programs, and our youth development programs. In fact, one of our guests today actually spoke at that ribbon cutting. Today, we are going to talk around safety around water. Summer's approaching. It's that time of the year where kids start finding pools. Pools are opening. Lake traffic picks up. Water becomes the place to gather to cool off in the summer heat. But truly and honestly, safety around water is a year-round thing. It's not just about the summer, but it seems to bubble up as pools open and we start to see some of these things. So we're going to talk about also some dangers that happen when kids and adults get around water, and what the Y and the community are doing to work together to keep our kids and our families safe. But first, as always, a little bit of history, because this is what we do here at the Y. Since we've been here for 165 years, we got a lot of things to talk about. Did you know that the YMCA was the pioneer in introducing formal swim lessons in the United States, launching the first organized swim lessons in 1910 in New York? Recognizing the urgent need for water safety education and instruction, the YMCA developed a curriculum that emphasized technique, endurance, and life-saving skills. By initiating these swim programs, the YMCA not only addressed a critical public health issue and concern, but it also set a precedent for community-based aquatic education. Over time, the YMCA has become synonymous with swim lessons, teaching generations of Americans how to be safe around the water and have fun, and that legacy continues today. To help us discuss all things safety around water today, I'm joined by Sabrah Parsons, Aquatics Director for the Kansas City YMCAs in the Wyandotte County, at Providence and Bonner Springs Y. She's one of our key leaders that is behind the work of keeping kids safe. And we're also joined, thank you so much, the Honorable Quinton Lucas, Mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, who's helping lead the way for safer and stronger neighborhoods in Kansas City. Thank you for joining us today on The Movement.
It is great to be with both of you today. Always exciting to be back at the Y.
Yeah, love it, love it. Sabrah, good to see you.
Thanks. Happy to be here and share our movement in drowning prevention.
Yeah. So fair warning, folks, today's conversation will have some heavy moments because we are talking about what tragedy sometimes propels us to move forward with action. And we'll talk about that as we deeply dive, no pun intended on that, into that. So let's start with Sabrah. So Sabrah, let's start with your roots. Can you take us back to the McPherson YMCA and what was your swimming journey like?
I cringe. There's no fear in McPherson. McPherson Family YMCA is where I was born and raised. My family was on scholarship. My father was an educator, and having 4 kids, it was always a financial strain to get us in all of the YMCA programs, from swimming to gymnastics. And I learned to swim in the parent and child class, and
That's
slowly but surely my progression went all the way through until there were no more levels. And my mom said, I'm going to sign you up to become an instructor because that's the next thing they have. And I said, okay. Never thought that would morph into a career. Took me out to California and then started my YMCA career as a full-time associate out there.
Yeah. So what point did you realize it just wasn't a skill and it became a mission for you?
I think my time in Sacramento really developed that. Sacramento had the highest drowning
We're talking Sacramento, California. Okay,
yep.
not Kansas.
Nope,
Okay.
nope. Took me all the way out to the West Coast, college first, and then a full-time career with the Y up in Northern California. Sacramento has the highest drowning per capita in the country. It's surrounded by 3 fast-moving rivers. It pained me so much every night on the news to see not 1, not two, not three drownings, but a whole family would go out to the river to celebrate, and a youth would take one step too far. And then a parent would go after them, and then an aunt and an uncle and a cousin. And it wasn't two or three, it was tens. And it was, how do we change this? Drowning is preventable, and how do we do that? So that started my passion for drowning prevention and my personal mission of where we go from here and how the Y really meets that need.
Yeah, that's great. Mayor Lucas, I've heard, all these stories about your youth. I mean, we growing up in Kansas City. Maybe tell us a little bit about, what was your childhood like, background in terms of access to pools, swimming, swim lessons, just the history there.
It was not plentiful. And I say it with the greatest respect to everyone who was in the space back then. Certainly the Y had its programs, although I commend all of you of recent times and really investing in more facilities, more spaces for kids to learn. And but as was noted in the last comment, you were still out and around the water. I mean, it's the darndest thing. So there were lots of us who can't swim. I still cannot, but we would still be around a lake as a place for recreation because we're Midwesterners. You would still be around these areas that get flooded all the time. And fundamentally, you were still around pools because it was so hot. And, something I tell sometimes my now much younger than me staff, none of these kids know about growing up without air conditioning around, right? And so in a place like this, you just had to go outside, and you often found yourself around the water. So there was this interesting relationship with the water, and perhaps knowing that you should learn how to swim, you knew the risks of it, but there really just wasn't enough, in my opinion, in terms of how can you actually really enjoy the water by being able to swim and be able to recreate it with it in a different way.
So many other comments that I want to start, but I do want to start with some statistics that are pretty startling, and especially when you look at specific communities within our communities. And so here's some statistics. In the U.S., drowning is still the second leading cause of death for children's ages 1 to 14. Black children ages 5 to 9 have a 2.5 times more likely opportunity to drown than white children. Black children ages 10 to 14 are 3.6 times more likely to drown than white children. In swimming pools alone, Black children are 7.6 times more likely to drown than white children. And approximately 64% of Black children and 62% of Hispanic children cannot swim, compared to 40% of white children. So those statistics of Black and brown children and, the disparities are staggering in communities. Mayor, what do you believe contributes to these numbers, and how can we address them?
I think the most important thing that we can do is share broadly with people, one, why it is so important, and second, that there is access. And so that's why it is great to have organizations like the Y. That's why it is so important to tell people, one, it's something that's very doable. It is not just a suburban privilege to be able to swim or to get to a pool, but we have them here downtown and in other places throughout the core of our region, Wyandotte County, here in Casey-Mo and beyond. We have people that want to teach you. And I think the other important thing is it's always the right time. It's not too late.
Amen.
I have a very young child right now. And so a lot of parents of young children will say, all right, yeah, get them signed up. And that's great. And it's good for us to do that step. But if you have a 13-year-old sitting around right now, or any other age you may think of, right, it is always the right time to get them out there and to really try to do something about it. Because the other thing that I find so important is not only is it this life-saving thing and all the kind of deep stuff we're thinking, it's also fun. Right. I get jealous of seeing the people who can jump off the diving board. I get jealous of seeing the folks who can actually have a really good time down at a lake nearby us. And so I think that's something that's important for everybody to know. It's fun. It is a great thing for life. For those who are worried about their fitness, that helps out too. Right. And there are a lot of reasons to get involved and get in the pool.
Yeah. Saber, he's speaking your language, isn't he?
He really is. And there's so many points of access and making sure that everyone has that access and ability to learn. The fact that we're sitting here and your child has such a higher chance of drowning than mine, that's not okay. It's not okay. And how do we meet our communities with the reality of where we are and change it? How do we come together at Y and other pools so that we can make that difference? That's not a problem. All youth have the ability to enjoy the water, adults, children, infants. And how do we overcome those drowning statistics is what I love about the Y.
So, Saber, maybe take me a little bit into what happens at, a YMCA pool and the protocols and the safety things and the things that are making sure, even though your kids are here at the Y, there's still a responsibility for everybody to take part in this safety, right?
I think our first step is making sure that our lifeguards are certified, trained, and tested.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that those lifeguards are on point, that they're vigilant, that their headspace is clear, and their focus is the safety of those people in the water. They come into those shifts expecting something major to happen, and they're prepared and ready. That way, when those early warning signs are present, they're able to respond in a swift and effective manner. And that's the core of first having a safe place where our communities can come together and gather and be in a water that is protected. So even if we don't know how to swim, we can still enjoy it safely.
Right. Mary, you just shared it, and then we've had these conversations over the many years that we've been connected. And how has your perspective been shaped as a father and a leader about now that you get to take your kids?
Yeah.
And because I know your oldest son has been able to go swim and take swim lessons at the Cleaver Y at 70th and Truth. So what's it mean to you to see them learning what maybe you didn't have access to?
Right.
Not that you didn't. Access is the thing. Not that you didn't want to and people didn't want that, but that access.
I think, and this is a place, by the way, where I want to thank the Y's donors, because kind of sticking to your last point, there were pools around when all of us were kids. There were things, and there were some very good people that tried their best. But I think the investments that you all have made at the Y, your contributors, our community more broadly, to create these opportunities for kids is just something that's special to me. So when I was heading to the Cleaver Y for my kids' lessons, the number one thing I loved was the many different spaces all the kids came from. And, for those who may not know that part of Kansas City, 70th and Troost. So you had kids who lived in the neighborhood right there or lived further east. You had kids from Prairie Village, Kansas and Brookside who were part of it. You had, people kind of from all over. And what I loved was it's this great equalizing thing, because things like the water and our nature and recreation is something that should exist for everyone. And, I think at its core, and you guys are the ones who work for the Y, but one of the things I've loved about the Y the most is that it kind of creates that equity in its calmest sense, the apolitical sense, which to me is really just, everybody can take part, and we're all better when everybody can take part. And that was something that was special to me, that in these spaces, we have the chance to overcome and really just eliminate every other issue that the world may be thinking about at a time. Yeah. And it's just kids being able to have a good time. And so that meant a lot to me from that. But I also learned something from your lifeguards and the folks who were teaching people. They talked to me about lessons for myself. They talked about, kind of all the different people they work with. They talked to me about the fact that, maybe they weren't actually teaching people to swim 20 years ago, but this is something they got into as well. One of the things that's most interesting to me whenever you get to have a really in-depth chat is that a lot of things happen in life, and a lot of things happen along the way. It's never too late to change something. It's certainly never too late to learn something. And it is always the right time to remind people of the things that can help them along the way. And I saw that at the Y. In fact, at the Cleaver Y, and I won't go forever, but, I would go to my kids' swim lessons, and there were people working out there who'd be like, "Hey, Mr. Mayor, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Swim lessons." And they're like, "Oh, I should either think of that for me. Yeah. I should get my kids or my grandkids in." I mean, I just love that we were spreading the gospel of why this is so important. And I think it's a difference maker.
Thank you. Saber, maybe to change the story a little bit, but I do want to bring up, one of those significant events that happened that has changed the course of some people's lives and over in the Kansas City, Kansas area. So the story of Levi Banks, it's pretty tragic, but it's pretty powerful. Can you share, I know that'll come from the heart, what happened and how it impacted the community there, and, maybe what's changed since what happened to Levi?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. The heart. Nope, you're fine.
Nope, that's what we do.
It happens. It's real. At this point, I met Levi's mom. And I met Levi's mom a few months after she lost him. And she came into my office and had a seat and said, "Hey, you teach swimming." Do. She goes, "Could your swim program have helped my son?" "Yeah. Who's your son? I'd love to get him in here." She goes, "No, you can't. He's not with us." He went to his grandpa's down in Texas, got out of the apartment, and he drowned. And to have a parent look you in the face and say, where was this when my son was here? How do we get this to his friends? How do we get this to his classmates? I said, let's figure it out. What's amazing is his best friend his dad worked for the elementary school, went out and found a grant. Principal said, what do we need to do? The Y got together. We sat at the lunchroom tables on the little stools and we said, let's figure this out. We had some grant funding. We had a principal. We had 100 students. We were ready to go. His mom set up in a lobby and did swimsuit drives and towel drives. And we made sure we had everything we needed. And then COVID happened. So we pushed pause and then we pushed play a couple of years later. And sure enough, the 100 students from Eugene Ware Elementary came into the Providence YMCA and took safety around water over summer school. And 100 students came in and they spent that time learning those essentials of swimming and how to save themselves, how to not be put in a dangerous situation, and what to do if they are or a loved one is. And most of those students, when you asked, hey, someone's in the water and they need help, what do? Would say, I go in and I help them. And we would have not one, but then two. And it then became, nope, here's what you need to do instead. And it amazed me. I had a lady on the deck and I couldn't quite figure out. She always looked mad. Finally, I caught her one day and I said, can I help you? She goes, yeah. She was Levi's kindergarten teacher. Those were his classmates and his best friend. As a parent and teacher, you feel that. You know what that is. So she saw her class. And it had a hole. Her class was missing Levi. Levi's mom came. She knew. That's his class. And he's not there. And it's a whole community of an elementary school teacher, principal, and school nurse, and parents who are missing a student. And that's one story. There are so many stories of drowning, and it is absolutely preventable. And how do we meet that need? How do we bring a community together to rally so that there aren't more stories of Levi? It's remembering Levi, and it's saying, no. We have lost too many of our youth to this. It's not okay. How do we change this? How do we advocate to ensure that not one more child is lost to drowning? Not one more family has to experience this. Not one more school has to send an email out to classmates saying, I'm sorry, but we've lost your friend. How do we rise to that mission and that purpose to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Yeah, I looked back. Thank you for that. That's passionate, and I can feel it. We both can feel that. Just, your commitment and dedication to kids. I mean, look at how you responded there to that question. So there's been a lot of tragedies. You mentioned that. There's been so many, and I picked up on the piece, not one more, from you, and that seems to be, the language that comes out as you've driven forward with safety around water, and we'll come back to that here in a little bit. But since 2014, I just, again, to talk about the statistics, and because there is a solution that we found, but there's a 7-year-old boy drowned at an apartment in 5 foot of water. He just happened to be there, and nobody saw him. A teenage boy drowned in a park in the Northland. A 15-year-old boy died in a near drowning accident in an indoor complex in Kansas City. Another 13-year-old boy, another 14-year-old girl, 2 children under the age of 3. A girl was found unresponsive in a water park. I mean, the list has gone on. I mean, it's been 10 years. That's 10 years of major situations. And like you said, it is preventable. So, Mayor, I would say this again. I mean, we've talked about these Kansas City communities. We've talked about specifically about communities of color and facing these drowning rates. I mean, what can be done from public and private partnerships? And we see some things that have happened, but are there greater opportunities out there that come to mind with you?
We have got to keep sharing stories and sharing how easy it is to get in for lessons, how accessible it is, how we don't want more stories like that, which you just shared. I'm kind of new to the parenting business, although it's been 4 years and it feels like it's been 50. But all of our hearts stop when you think about that. And you hear people talk about how there's really no greater loss that one can probably not even imagine. And the fact that we have a way that we can prevent them. Yeah. I would hope that this encourages anybody who's listening to this, not just to sign up for lessons for whomever you can, but also to share that, this is available. This is out there. This is possible. The problem I want us to have after this is released is that too many people call you and, and that like entire school districts, right? Like the entire states of Missouri and Kansas, both governors call you and say, hey, Mark, you said there's this thing. So
let's do this thing.
I have 1 million kids for you because you know what? If we had that, right? And if we had people who were lined up and ready, then doggone it, we can try to do the back end work to try to make sure we can handle it. But, that to me is what's going to be so important because you're right. And you're both right on this. We hear about these tragedies every summer. And actually, even in indoor facilities or others, we hear about them really all year. And there are things that we can do. And so I hope that, I certainly will use my voice and my platform to try to continue to tell people now there's something to do here. Yeah. And by the way, let me just say this for folks too. For you adults, don't worry about what you look like in a swimsuit. It's all good. You're getting like a great service. Amen. For the kids, you are not too cool, right? For anybody who's got either hair to worry about, not my thing, but nonetheless, we got hair caps. Like, you should always try to make sure you're doing something here. And I think that's the lesson I take from this. And I think about that mother and what you're saying and not another. And I feel like we're on the cusp of being able to deliver that.
Yeah. Well, I know that specifically in 2015, 2014 window, when we came to the city and we came to 3rd District and we came to the community in Kansas City to cover a pool at the Linwood Y. Yeah. And with your support, even when you were in 3rd District and all the way up to your ascension to mayor, I'll call it. But the support with the city has been there with these funders that you mentioned. So thanking them again for being able to cover a pool where it's not just 3 months out of the year that we're doing this in that community, but year round. And that's what makes a difference when we can continue to do that from a year round standpoint. Sabrah, again, maybe just one more story, just to kind of hit it home. I know this is taxing on you. I appreciate the emotions and I understand how that does, but I know it comes straight from the heart. Talk to me about June of 2020. COVID has just begun, and what happened in Kansas City, Kansas at the Parkwood Pool?
Absolutely. So our Parkwood pool was closed for the summer. It was something that we weren't able to have it open in our community. Posted as closed. A few teenagers were hot. They wanted a chance to cool off. Thought it was a great idea to hop a fence and go swimming. One dove in the deep end and didn't come up. His younger brother ran to the fire department that shares the parking lot, and firefighters came in over the fence and did their best. And Emmanuel Solomon was lost to drowning. We lost another teen. That was right on the heels of Levi, same school district, same community, impacted twice by drowning in a very short period of time.
How did the community respond?
It was amazing to see voices.
Because this takes it bigger than Levi, right?
Absolutely. At this point, a lot of it became advocacy of, why our youth? Why this community? Why is it that our youth are so much more susceptible, and how do we change it? We have to do better. And that's what became a media storm. And it allowed the Y to be the gathering place for so many community entities. It brought together UG Park and Rec. It brought together Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. It brought together the YMCA of Greater Kansas City of, let's sit down. Let's brainstorm. We have the means. How do we get the youth? And how do we overcome the different barriers? Because there are lots of barriers in place. Time, transportation, access. How do we overcome all of those logistics? And it's amazing. A school district had busing. and students. The Y had a pool and instructors. UG said, we have a pool, come use the pool. We want youth in our community to have access. And through that, so many amazing partnerships have developed and come from it that overcomes those barriers. You don't have a suit, here's a suit. You don't have a towel, here's a towel. More so for parents that maybe don't have time in the evenings or the weekends. Hey, we're going to do it during their school day. And it's a part of their schooling of how do you save your life if you need to in the water.
You've been on the front end of this too, Saber. And so GEHA comes forward, the public sector. The Hunt Family Foundation sponsors this. The Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. I mean, all throwing funding at this. It still needs to be funded. So there still needs to be public support and private support to be able to make this happen. And that continues today, right? In your opinion, or your guess, I don't know, I'm sure you probably got it down to the number of exec kids. How many kids have been through this program of safety around water?
Oh, goodness sakes. You threw that one on curveball. Number's not my strength. However, I know that to date, we've had thousands go through our Joe Delaney Learn to Swim presented by GEHA here in our Kansas City Association. What's amazing is it now has even grown grassroots here in Kansas City, and it's national. It's now in over 14 cities across the United States, known as Learn to Swim presented by GEHA. But it's amazing how, here's where it started. It started here in memory of Joe Delaney and him drowning in response to youth who needed assistance in the water. And I think Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools has had over 3,000 youth go through safety around water as part of their curriculum as well. And these grassroots just start and they grow deeper and deeper. And it's exciting to see those momentum of change take effect.
Yeah, and right behind us, we've got the kids from Crossroads over here. We've got the second grade. I'm not sure what grade. They look like might be second graders, but they're here. And they're in their class today where they're taking safety around water right across the street. Mayor, what's your, if you have maybe you kind of already brought it to us, but what would be a long-term vision for water safety in Kansas City?
Long-term vision for water safety in Kansas City is that it is something that is almost a natural discussion for people from the time they have a child on up, that everybody knows there is a space for them to go, that it is something that's institutionalized in our schools too, even at least talking about it. And that frankly, as we're thinking about our summer parks and recreation budget, not just in Kansas City, Missouri, but in every city all around us, that there is some focus as to our pool. And, you know, our summertime pools aren't just revenue generators. It doesn't just need a bigger, cooler slide, but it's also a place where we can do this great public service for all. And so, you know, we do a lot of regional collaboratives in our region. And I hope that one of those is that each jurisdiction will commit to finding ways to make sure all the kids know about the programs and has a space for them.
Saber, if somebody wants to take action today, what do you think they can do? Give me a couple of things to help prevent drowning in their community. What can they do?
Step one, educate yourself. If you don't know how to swim, get signed up. The YMCA has swim lessons and access for all. There is always financial assistance available for swimming lessons. All of our facilities operate lessons year round. December, January, February are great times so that then when spring and summer hit, you know the safety aspects and you're ready to go. But those lessons are offered year round. Formal swimming lessons reduces the chance of drowning by 88%. So that is the foundational step number one. Second would be advocacy and finding ways that you can advocate to bring drowning prevention into your community, advocating for partnerships and organizations coming together to meet the needs of our youth where we are and where we need it to go moving forward.
Awesome. Mayor, would you ever consider learning to swim yourself?
I still need to. I am told all the time. And so I probably need to get to work. I hear you guys know some people that could help me out.
We know some people. We know some people.
Maybe one of these days we could get that done. We'd love to have you in one of our pools, Mayor. I'll give you the last word, Mayor. What's your message to parents out there who may be afraid of the water and didn't do it like you and want something better for the child?
You know, it's not cool. It's not cultural. It's the sort of thing that is, how do you save lives? And so, you know, it's something that I've dealt with for a lifetime and all of that. But particularly when you think about your own kids, and I think about mine, it's something that we should correct and we should fix. And it gives us the opportunity not just to save our child's lives, but as we see more and more children that are getting out and around the water, you can be an influence on so many in your community.
Yeah. And that my YMCA family is Sabrah Parsons, Super YMCA Aquatics Director in the Wyandotte County Ys, and Mayor Quinton Lucas. Thank you so much for being on the movement today. Not one more is the phrase that I heard today. It's a promise to our children, our families, our friends, and our future. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, a policymaker, a neighbor, you can do something. You can play a part. So here's that call to action again. Visit a local YMCA or your local community center. Find somebody that's teaching swim lessons and sign up. Support water safety programs in your schools. Share this episode because it is good. Because one life lost to drowning is one too many. Stay motivated, stay connected, and keep moving forward with us in the movement. Together, we're building a stronger community, one story at a time. Thanks for spending time with us on the movement. Visit kansascitymca.org for more information and follow the YMCA of Greater Kansas City on social media. 165 years of impact, 165 years ahead. Let's go.